Okay, today we're going to learn about graphing using intercepts. Before we get into that though, I want to just go over some review to keep your skills fresh, and we are going to solve for x. So recall when you have fractions and you want to solve, you can always employ the strategy of cross multiplication, and you can also use the strategy of cross reducing. In this case, what we want to do is we want to eliminate the denominator by multiplying every single term by the common denominator. In this case, the common denominator can be found by multiplying the 7 by the x. So our common denominator is in fact 7x. And when we multiply 7x times 5 over x, we can cross reduce. We have x divided by x is 1, and 7x divided by x is 7. 7 divided by 7 is 1, and 7x divided by 7 is just x. In this case, we have x divided by x is 1, and 7x divided by x is 7. That may be confusing for you, but hopefully by this point you've mastered this skill. If not, I'll just give you a further example with the first term here. We had 7x times 5 over x. That's really the same thing as saying 7x over 1 times 5 over x. So if we did this the long way, we'd have 7x times 5, or numerator times numerator, which would equal 35x, and the denominator 1 times x would be x. And in this case, 35x divided by x, those would cancel out, and you'd be left with 35. And so that's exactly what we're left with. When we multiply 7 times 5, we're going to be left with 35. That's why when we cross reduced, we had x divided by x is 1, and 7x divided by x is 7. So that's why it's eliminated. So let's take a look here. We will have 7 times the 5 is 35 equal, and all we have left here is x. So equal x plus, and then we have 7 times the 1. And 7 times 1 is positive 7. And then we have 35 equal x plus 7. 35 minus 7 equal x. And 28 equal x. If you wanted to double check that, you can simply rewrite the question with 28 for x. 1 over 7 plus 1 over 28. And then we'd have 5 over 28 equal 1 over 7 plus 28, or 5 over 28 equal, a common denominator here would be 28. That's already 28. So what do we do to the 7 to get the 28? We multiply by 4. So 1 times 4 is 4. 5 over 28 equal 5 over 28. That's a quick check. Okay, review from last lesson. We want to make y equal 3/4 x plus 5. Again, that's y equal mx plus b format. We want to make it look like standard form. And so we want the a value to be positive, and we also want the a value not to be a fraction. So how do we eliminate the fraction? Well, what we did up above here was we multiplied by a common denominator. And here, technically, our common denominator, this is y over 1, x over 1, 5 over 1. So our common denominator is really 4. So we're going to multiply every term by 4. So we're going to have 4. Let's do it this way. We'll have 4 times the y, and 4 times the 3/4 x, and we're going to have plus 4 times the 5. So we literally multiplied everything by 4. We end up with 4y equal, now remember this part here, this is really 4 over 1 times 3 over 4x, and x is a numerator. So that 4 and that 4 really crosses out, and we're left with 3x plus 20. And we want y equal mx, sorry, we want ax plus by plus c. This is the format that we want. So we already have 3x here, so we'll keep this 3x. And we are going to write negative 4y plus 20. Again, we're going to subtract 4y from both sides. It looks like we're just taking the 4y and sneaking it in here on the other side. And that'll equal 0. Or you can rewrite it like this, 3x minus 4y plus 20 equals 0. These two lines here are the exact same thing, and that's your answer. How do I graph this? Well, again, in order to graph, it's easier when you have it in y equal mx plus b format. The reason is because we can use the slope for rise over run, and the y-intercept gives us a starting point to graph our line. So in this case, what we can do is we'll write negative 2y, keep that there, equal, and we'll just basically subtract x from both sides. So we'll have a negative x here, and subtract 8 from both sides, and we'll have minus 8. Now I want to divide everything by negative 2, so that I'm left with just a y. Y equal, well, first look at this. What's negative x divided by negative 2? That's really the same thing as saying 1x divided by 2, or 1/2 x. And then negative 8 divided by negative 2 is positive 4. So watch out for the positive there, negative divided by negative. Now we have a starting point, positive 4. So I can mark that here on my graph. And our rise over run, our slope, tells us rise is 1, run is 4, which means we're going up 1 and right 4. Or, as I mentioned in the last lesson, we can, oh sorry, I apologize, that's a 2, not a 4, that's a 2. Denominator is 2. Or we can say negative 1 over negative 2, which would mean we'd go down 1 and left 2. So let's take a look at that. We can go up 1 or up 1 and right 2, or we can go down 1 and left 2. But we're still on the same line. Okay, and there we go. That's our line. So again, we started at 4, up 1, right 2, or down 1, left 2. Just depends where you want to draw the line, to the right or the left. So the learning goal here is, can you identify an x-intercept? Can you identify a y-intercept? Can you calculate an x-intercept given the equation of a line and a y-intercept given the equation of a line? It doesn't matter which format. You have slope intercept form or y-intercept form, or do you have standard form? Can you identify an intercept? And I can graph a line using the x and y-intercept. Okay, that's what we're looking for here today. So using intercepts, what I want you to think about, whenever you hear the word intercepts, we're talking about where a line, so I'll give you just an example here, where this line touches the x-axis is the intercept, where it touches the y-axis is an intercept. And what we need to know is that when a line touches the x-axis, at that point, what we know is that the y value is 0, because we are on the x-axis. It hasn't gone above and it hasn't gone below. So we're right on the x-axis, which means the y value is 0. When we're on the y-axis, that means the x value is 0 because it hasn't gone left or right. It's stuck on the y-axis. So if you can remember, as soon as you hear the word intercept or read the word intercept, I want you to think of 0, comma blank or blank, comma 0, those as intercepts. So right away we know we have 0, comma something, and we're going to have something, comma 0. And the way we're going to work with this is, so again, think about that. The way we're going to work with this is we're going to write this equation, and we're going to find out when x equals 0, what is the y value. So let's sub in 0 for x. We're going to have 2 times 0. We're literally changing x to be 0. Let me just change the color of that so we can highlight it. 2 times 0 minus y equal 8. Now we have negative y, because 2 times 0 is 0, and we have negative y equal 8. But we're solving for y, not negative y. So we can divide both by negative 1, or you can multiply both by negative 1. Either way, you'll end up with y equal negative 8. So we just found out when x is 0, y is negative 8. And now what we're going to do is we're going to rewrite the equation again. 2x minus y equal 8, except this time we're going to plug in, let's see, like that, we're going to plug in 0 for y. And now we get 2x equal 8, and we divide both sides by 2, and x equals 4. So we know that when x equals 4 when y equals 0. And now if we wanted to graph that using intercepts, I'm just going to erase what I just did before. For graphing using intercepts, we're going to plot 0, -8, which is going to be somewhere down here, and 4, 0, which is here. Right? And we have something like that. That's our line ballpark. Oops. It's a little bit off on the x. Something like that. Now, if we're off the grid here, what can we do? So this point here is a little bit sketchy because it's really more of a sketch than an exact point. But what I can do is I know that this point here on the x-axis is actually 4, 0. And what I could do is I can calculate the slope if I really wanted to. I could say y equal, for this equation here, I could say 2x minus y equal 8. 2x minus y equal 8. And I can say negative y equal negative 2x plus 8. And then y equal 2x minus 8. So we know negative 8 is our y-intercept. That's confirmed. Negative 8 right here tells us that's our y-intercept. But I found my slope is 2. So I can actually go up 2. My slope is really 2 over 1. Up 2, right 1. Well, let me just erase this line here. What is up 2 and right 1 from 0, -8? So we know 0, -8 is somewhere down there. But up 2 would be -6. And right 1 would be 1. So now I found another point. And I can use this point here. And now I can draw a more accurate line. And that's not as accurate as I'd like it to be, so I'm going to try that again. There we go. And now that is more exact. All right, let's try this. Let's graph this using intercepts. 3x minus 5y minus 15 equals 0. Again, I want you to think of making x 0 and then making y 0 to find the two intercepts. So here we say 3 times 0, so x is 0. We'll solve for y. And so we get 3 times 0 is 0, and we're left with negative 5y, and we'll add 15 to both sides, so I get this. Right, so basically it looks like we took this and brought it over. And now we divide both sides by negative 5. And we know that 15 divided by negative 5 is negative 3. So we have 0, -3, and that's our first coordinate, 0, -3, and I can plot that right there. And then we're going to write the equation again, 3x minus 5y minus 15 equals 0, and we're going to make the y value 0 and solve for x. So 3x minus 5 times 0, that's all we've done. We are going to leave the 3x here. And we know minus 5 times 0 means minus nothing, because 5 times 0 is 0. And again, we add 15 to both sides, so that's positive 15. And then we're dividing both sides by 3, x equal 5. So when y is 0, x equal 5. So 5, 0 is my second point, and it's right there. Connect those two. And there we go. And that's your line. That's graphing using intercepts. Right? Hope that makes sense. Again, when you hear the word intercepts, I want you to think of, right away you should be thinking 0, something, or something, 0. We're making the x value 0 and making the y value 0, and we're using those two intercepts where the line touches the x-axis and where the line touches the y-axis as our only 2 points for graphing. Hope that helps, and we'll see you in class.